Hello everyone, Shroomraver here and welcome to the first week of the TBL, the Twitch Battle League. Yes indeed, this is a new league that I am part of. Well, it's not a new league, it's a new season of an existing league that I am now a part of. Very excited to be back into the Draft League format and hoping that we can get a win with our first game. Now, if you missed my team analysis and sort of the explanation of how this league is working, check back in the playlist that this video will be in for that whole thing. I'll go over the team that I drafted and how this league is working. Suffice it to say that I am part of the Showdown section with a partner in the Wi-Fi section. And we have our first game up here. We are up against BossWhatup and the Geneva Gengars. If I can find links to him, they'll be down in the description below. Make sure you check them out. He's got a pretty nasty team. I'm going to go over what he drafted. His team that he can choose from is Incineroar, Celebi, Galarian Corsola, Escavalier, Quagsire, Rotom Fan, Chinchino, Aurorus, Hitmontop, Altaria, and Boltons. So a really interesting team lineup there. He's got a lot of nasty, bulky things. But I'm seeing some opportunities here, which is quite nice. When I was drafting the team, I took Tyrantrum first, and I said, there's only so many things that really can switch in and properly counter Tyrantrum. This team has two of them, in the form of Hitmontop and Quagsire. But aside from that, realistically, he has nothing that actively wants to switch into a Head Smash, not even that Escavalier, or indeed like the Aurorus or the Galarian Corsola, anything like that. They really don't want to switch into it. So what I've built this team around is a way of luring in those checks and counters to Tyrantrum to weaken them down with the other members of my team, pick them off, and then get Tyrantrum going. So, with that in mind, what have I decided to bring? Well, first up, we have a Life Orb Whimsicott, max HP, max special attack, max speed, with Energy Ball, Moonblast, Hurricane, and U-Turn. This is going to do a lot of damage to all the things that Tyrantrum doesn't want to deal with, specifically the Quagsire and the Hitmontop. It's going to be able to do a lot of damage to them, get them out of the game if possible, and allow Tyrantrum to do a lot of work. Then we have Absol. This is a bit of a strange, especially defensive Absol set with leftovers. Knockoff, Flamethrower, Toxic, and Sub. This hopefully is going to act as one of the lures to those Tyrantrum counters. With Absol in, probably his biggest switch in is going to be that Hitmontop, which I can then get a Toxic off onto, and then do what I really want. I think he's going to want to try and save the Hitmontop. I'm absolutely confident that he's going to be bringing it because he needs it for the Tyrantrum. If I can sub up on it switching in, get a Toxic off, and then start doing things, he's going to be weakened quite considerably. Then we have the Tyrantrum itself. This is a Hardstone set with Head Smash, Toxic, Rock Polish, and Protect with max attack. It's got 172 speed with that jolly nature. With a Rock Polish up, that's going to be outspeeding everything on his team that isn't Scarfed. And again, the idea is very simple. Predicting a counter to come in directly whenever Tyrantrum is in, that being one of those two that I've mentioned quite a lot. We can Toxic, we can get a round of that, we can Protect, we can get another round, and then we can switch into something else. Once those counters are gone, get a Rock Polish up on something, maybe like the Boltons, or perhaps the Celebi, the Incineroar, something like this, and start doing nasty things. Then we have a fairly standard, physically defensive Rocky Helmet Sandslash, Earthquake, Knockoff, Spikes, and Stealth Rock. His hazard removal is not wonderful. I mean, you're looking at the Rotom Fan, the Hitmontop. I don't think Altaria even gets Defog. So those are really his only options for getting rid of hazards. Rocks are going to be more important. I have a fair amount of knockoff on this team to get rid of any boots he might be bringing. And it can just do a decent amount of damage to a lot of his team. Knockoff is going to be very useful for the likes of Celebi, who might be Scarfed, Corsola, who will absolutely be coming with the Violite, stuff like that. Then we have Jellicent. Jellicent is a physically defensive Colberberry set. It's got enough speed in there to outpace a non-speed invested Hitmontop. We've got Scald, Strength Stat, Taunt, and Giga Drain going on there. Colberberry is going to allow us to take a brutal swing from the Hitmontop. Taunt is going to be there so it doesn't Toxic us back. This thing can 1v1 the Hitmontop and it can really put the hurt on the Quagsire with the Giga Drain and again taunting it to stop it toxicking or recovering. It's a lot of ways in this team are built around taking out those two specifically, which I'm suspecting will be coming, and allowing Tyrantrum to do the rest of the work. Then finally we have Toxicroak. Toxicroak is here, if I can just try and scroll down and get the information on it. Yep, Wide Lens Toxicroak with Poison Touch, Cross Chop, Knock Off, Sucker Punch and Stone Edge. This is just here to come in and do a lot of damage to things. It's got enough speed to outpace anything that isn't Cinccino, I think, or Boltons. Cinccino, Bolton and Celebi all outpace it naturally, but everything else this thing is going in hard against. Knock Off, Cross Chop and Stone Edge with Sucker Punch, say they'll do a lot of damage to pretty much everything he's got. And it's there to just come in and snipe off things sort of mid to late game, get rid of threats that might be on low HP that Tyrantrum then come in and do the work. So, looking at my opponent's team, as you can see on screen, he has bought Hitmontop, Quagsire, Incineroar, Escavalier, Rotom-Fan and Cinccino. I know that this guy is a big proponent of Cinccino. I am not taking that lightly as a threat. Those first two, obviously the first two on his team, he's clearly quite afraid of Tyrantrum and rightly so. But as I say, I have ways and means of trying to deal with those. So yeah, I'm looking okay in this match. I'm quietly confident, you know. I didn't really want to deal with Celebi or Galarian Corsola. Everything else I'm pretty okay with either way. As I say, the Cinccino is something I'm not taking lightly, but everything else I feel fairly confident in dealing with if I can get my plan in place. So, that's going to be the teams. Let's get right into the battle, see exactly how things played out. So, I'm going to be leading with my Sandslash. It's the best lead against pretty much everything that isn't Quagsire. In comes the Rotom. Now, he's going to go straight for Willow here. I don't actually mind that. My main thing here is get a knockoff onto this guy to make sure it's not scarfed. It's actually Boots, which is showing me this is probably a defogger and probably a bulky set. But now he's going to hard into Quagsire as I get my rocks up, which is exactly what I wanted early game. But I don't want to be taking on the Quagsire with Sandslash, quite obviously. I can make the offensive switch into Whimsicott, as he is going to actually double back into his Rotom now. I'm sure that the defog is coming, but I want to get some damage off, and Moonblast is a clear 2-hit KO from there. With a special attack drop I can live any hit as well. And he does indeed go for the defog. But he's going to want to save this guy, and he's going to switch out into his Escavalier as I just go for a Moonblast and get some nice chip damage onto it. But I don't want to stay in here, and I have no reason to go for a U-turn. So I go hard into Sandslash, and Iron Head is doing very, very banded damage. It's a clean 2-hit KO from there, but I want to get my rocks right back up. Now he's going to go into Hitmontop, so clearly he's predicted rocks, and this is another hazard remover. He wouldn't have gone into it otherwise because he just takes Rocky Helmet damage. But I can see the spin coming. He wants to get rid of those rocks for the Rotom, so I'm going to go into Jellicent to make sure he can't get that rapid spin off. Now here, I'm just going to go for a taunt to make sure he can't toxic me, but again, the offensive switch comes in with Cinccino, and I can get the taunt off there. Now, Sandslash doesn't serve too much more of anything for me, so I'm going to sack it off here to the incoming Bullet Seed. Down it goes, but now I can bring in my Whimsicott. If he's scarfed, he has to switch out here, and if he's not going to do any. I'm going to outspeed him. Now, I actually outspeed, so he's not scarfed. I U-turn and go into Jellicent, predicting the Tail Slap is his biggest form of damage, and again, it does nothing. Now here, he's actually going to go for the knockoff. I predict this knowing I can live it. With my Colbur Berry, it does very little damage. I'm going to be able to go for a Scald here. Now, it's not going to take him out, but it is going to get a very, very clutch burn onto this Cinccino, and now it's essentially quite crippled. He's going to go for U-turn to get on out of there, and he's going to go into his Escavalier as I go once again for the well, actually I go for the Strength Sap this time. So it's a -1, I'm back to full health, and now I can start scalding. Which I do. It's not a 2-hit KO, but it does get another burn, which is super useful, and this knockoff, burnt, -1, no item, it's not going to do anything. Now he has no reason to save this Escavalier. Jellicent is going to go for the Scald and get my first KO of the season. Very nice. Now in comes Cinccino. The Bullet Seed is very, very obvious here, so I'm going to make an offensive play once again, go into my Toxicroak. Now I can take that Bullet Seed. I know that the burn is going to take him down to 1%, and he'll have no reason to save the Cinccino after that, other than to try and knock off my item. So I'm just going to go for the Sucker Punch, snipe that Cinccino, and down it goes. Now unfortunately, I'm still not free to do things with Tyrantrum, and in comes the Quagsire. But I want to go for knockoff here to make sure he's not holding that Rindo Berry. But it's actually Rocky Helmet. I get rid of that, he goes for Earthquake and is going to take me out. So what I can do here, knowing Quagsire is not too much of a threat, is going to Absol. Now I know this is going to tempt in the Hitmontop, which is exactly what he does, and I predict that, and I'm able to go for the Toxic, and that's going to start putting Hitmontop on a big old timer. He can't get rid of that Toxic, he doesn't have a Cleric. But now I'm going to go into my Jellicent, knowing that he's going to want to spin again for his Rotom, and the fact he wants to get rid of those rocks means his Incineroar's probably not boots either. Now I get around the Sucker Punch here by just going for the Taunt, because again I don't want him Toxicking me back in return, which is fine. He's not going to be able to do that now, and he's going to try Sucker Punch again, but this really is Jellicent's game. I'm going to Strength Sap, get back to full, he's at -1, he's taking a lot of toxic damage, and he has to get out of there. Now I predict that very easily. His best switch here is going to be the Quagsire. I'm going to taunt it on the switch to make sure that he's not very speedy or something with Toxic, but I can then just easily take him out with Giga Drain. Down goes Quagsire. Jellicent is looking really nice indeed. Now in comes the Incineroar. He takes the rocks damage, so he's not boots. What happens here is odd. I actually outspeed him and do no damage. So this is looking like a very specially defensive AV set. But because he's packing Knockoff and Darkest Lariat, it's not even 2-hit KO. And again, I can 1v1 him here. I get the Cursed Body, which means he has to U-turn out and sack off his Rotom Fan to the rocks. So he can't get rid of them. Down it goes, kill for Sandslash. But now the Hitmontop has to come back in, but it's looking like good game at this point. He has nothing that can OHKO me. I'm going to taunt him again just in case he has Toxic and he's trying to drop it. He's actually going to go for the Triple Axle here, showing that he's basically looking at Rapid Spin, Triple Axle, Sucker Punch, and probably Close Combat. But that means that he can be 1v1'd with a combination of Strength Sap and Scald and everything else. Triple Axle, again, is going to do nothing and it actually gets disabled here. So the only thing he can do here is Sucker Punch, which is what he's going to do. I don't need to stall him out with Toxic. Sucker Punch is still not doing anything, and I can get a little hint of health back with the Giga Drain, and that's going to put me in very good stead against the Incineroar, which is his last Pokemon. We know we can't OHKO from here. We know that I 2-hit KO with Scald, and I outspeed, which is what exactly is going to happen. He's going to live on a smidgen of health. Knockoff is going to take me down quite a fair way, but now he's disabled as well, which is just insult to injury. The final Scald is going to take out the Incineroar, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the game. So, we open our account with a win, ladies and gentlemen. Jellicent put in an absolute shift right there. Much as I wanted to double out at the end, go into Tyrantrum just to let it get the kill against the Incineroar, there was no point. I figure that Tyrantrum is going to be able to put in work in other matches anyway, so I let Jellicent really have his moment as a massive MVP of this game, bagging 4 kills, which is huge for a defensive mon. You know, it got lucky there with a few burns, you know, on his 2 premier physical attackers being Cinccino and the Escavalier. Cinccino could have been a real problem for me. There was the fact that I outsped it with Whimsicott, so there was always that sort of threat hanging over him that I could bring in Whimsicott, and Whimsicott really had a good matchup against him too, so I wasn't too worried about it, but it did play into it with a nice little bit of luck, allowing me to sort of play around it quite nicely with the likes of Jellicent and Toxicroak. But yeah, we do open off with a win. That's very nice. All the games of week 1 have been played. My partner Quincy, he unfortunately lost his first game, which means as a team we're 1-1 with a differential of +1, which is nice. Jellicent actually sitting second in the MVP rankings. There was a late game in the week where Alcremie got 5 kills, which bumped Jellicent down. It was number 1 in the MVP race, which was quite fun. But yeah, that's going to be the first game. So thank you all very much for watching. Do hope that you've enjoyed. Next week we are facing off against, if I can find it, we're facing off against Pearly and the beautifully named Pokemon Friendship Society, which is just, you know, it's heartwarming. That's going to be the first of 2 Hail teams that we have to face off against, which is rough. He's got a few really good defensive mons on there as well, but we'll get into that when we get into it. But we're back to League format with a win, which is really nice, and hopefully we can use this momentum, go on and get some more. But yeah, I'm going to wrap things up from here. I've rambled on far too long, so my final thank you to you all for watching, and I guess with that, I'll see you next time. Laters.